My body is so messed up. My guts, my lungs, everything. I've tried to get emergency room medical attention like 15 times at like 13 different emergency rooms. And every time I try to get medical attention, somebody with a badge that has personal involvement in a crime walks me out of the emergency room. Considering that people are murdering me and stuff, if I was going to go anywhere and leave this city, it would be to separate myself from people that are murdering me with the 3 to 5 surgicals inside of my body, that are destroying my brain, stealing my hard drive, and thought controlling me and forcing me to use drugs, trying to discredit me and trying to hide everything from trying to hide their serial pedophilia, their sexual slavery, their prostitution, their murder, first degree intentional homicides, blackmail, bribery, extortion, coercion, intimidation of a witness. I mean, the fraud and the attempted fraud and the conspiracy to commit fraud and the forgery and the marital frauds and power of attorney fraud and every sort of fraud you could imagine, defamation of character, group and gang stalking, and the electronic harassment with ties to organized crime, all the thousands and thousands and thousands of felonies. You know, it's like thousands and thousands. And I'm just sitting here in my apartment, and people just rip something out of my neck a second ago. Probably my lung again. Or some crap. They're torturing me to death, and I can't get medical attention as many times as I go. Somebody's walking around with my FBI badge, and they're fucking impersonating me. And they're fucking murdering me. There's no other way around it, you know. Either my relatives and I get brought to witness protection and get medical attention, or my relatives and I are going to wind up dead. And I'm sitting in my apartment and I'm about to die, I'm telling you. These little punks, psychopaths, keep ripping apart my body, trying to hide that I'm innocent about absolutely everything. And these people are not. And they're doing stuff to me and my family. I'll be the 6th member of my family to be murdered by these people, and they will try to make it look like their corpse or natural cause of death. And they're going to kill my entire family. All my step relatives, all my relatives. And then they're going to try to blame some sort of gang stuff on it. But there is 12 different gangs involved that they have connections to and affiliations with, as well as every entity of enforcement, incarceration, investigation, like Dirty Agent Nick and Dirty Agent Richard, Dirty former Sheriff Fuller, Dirty former lead detective James Shepard Sr., their family, like the laundries even, the laundries, deputies and stuff like that, and an officer that they stole my FBI pay, forged my signature to cash the check, stole my FBI badge, and they are literally trying so desperately to discredit me and are trying to capitalize off of it. People forced me to sign like 6 blank statements, 6 power of attorney, 6 blank marital certificates. I was raped at a bar by a chick named Samantha with orange hair. They forced me to walk around the bar. They drugged me and held me captive and beat me with rubber hoses. They sexually assaulted me in the backseat of a car. They sexually assaulted me outside of a bar. I got molested and sexually assaulted. I got sexually assaulted by Jacob Krause. And I got sexually assaulted by this chick named Samantha with orange hair. And I got held down in a car, and they stuck a needle in my arm. And they force-fed me pills. And they held me captive for like 24 hours. They punched me in the face off a camera, put the camera down, and tried to make me look like a chomo. They force-fed me crayons with silicone caulk as a dipping sauce. They beat me with chunks of rubber hoses. They forced me to perform oral sex on Jacob Krause, who home invaded and sexually assaulted my mother as well, and did the same thing to my mother. And he bragged about it while he was doing it. He also goes by the name of Jacob Brown. Somebody sent me a response on Google from my YouTube, and I complained about being thought controlled to use drugs last night, and it cost me $120. And their response was, stop using, don't use drugs, or stop using drugs. And I'm going, with people stabbing through my brain and my lobes, my temporal lobes, up through the center of my brain, up into both lobes, into my cerebral cortex, like 4 or 5 spots, into my muscle tissue, connecting up to my spine, along my spinal column. They cut and shocked along my spinal tissue and my muscle, and we're connecting up to my muscle tissue with glass, a transceiver, and they were abusing me with it, and they're thought controlling me and making me do whatever the hell they want, you know. Sitting, I have no control over anything. Tried all I could just to get to the bank today, pay the guy $100 I owe him, and go and pay my phone bill before my phone shuts off. You know, and I'm left with like $500 in my bank, you know. And 3 of that has to go, more than 3 of that has to go to pay my rent. And I'll sit here with next to nothing. They just broke my TV last night with one of the surgicals. They were using the surgical on it, and they pointed at it, and when they pointed at it, they're like going like this with the surgical, and they broke it, and now I don't get a picture out of it. I can't afford a TV. I can listen to the news. That's about it. People put acids up in the ceiling. They put corrosive acids up in the ceiling. And the other day I seen this guy with a truck and a ladder. And I looked and I saw Andre Saunders. And I'm going, great. That's Dan Brown's associate. Dan Brown is a relative of the Krauses, and he is involved with murdering us, and he put corrosives on me before. He dripped corrosives on me, and he fried out the hard drive that I had or whatever. And now they just put corrosives on me again, and it's going to probably shake loose the hard drive that's in a chunk of intestines. And I'm just going to wind up dead, and they're going to falsify cause of death. I don't know who climbed up in the attic or something then, maybe otherwise. But I know I've been hearing a lot of Saunders talk over the piggyback FM frequencies. I think Dan Brown's supposed to be involved with doing something to my mom or something. I know Carol Wicks is. Carol Wicks home invaded me. And Paul and Geraldine Champeau that were at the bar with Ronnie Fuller, Jacob Krause, RJ, Dirty Agent Richard, that raped me at the bar. Samantha and her other cousin or something, that home invaded me prior to doing that, and that drugged me and held me captive, that, you know, all the stuff that they did to me, you know. Ronnie Fuller almost murdered Riedelbach and I. Alicia Riedelbach's the mother of my eldest son. God bless her and him. I hope they're doing okay. I haven't seen my son in 20 years. And you know, I miss him so much. I don't know anything about him. When these people, when Fuller almost killed him, he almost killed Riedelbach and I. He gave us food poisoning. And it was his intent to manipulate people to believe that I was some sort of a sick person, is what he said, as an excuse. But Ronnie Fuller once said to me over the phone, when they murdered my grandmother, Joyce Harriet Lederer, and they were murdering her, I think I got a phone call from him, where I called him, and he said he's going to put a bullet between my eyes. And James Shepard Sr., the former lead detective of Green Bay, said that I was going to narc him and his son out. His son, the serial pedophile, and Jacob Krause, his serial pedophile accomplice. And Shepard tried to cover it up. And he said that he was going to kill me because I was going to actually narc him and his son out. So my grandparents that they murdered and made look like natural causes were pillars of they were pillars of the community. My grandpa served the church for 50 years as an usher. His name was Neil Lewis Van Stratton. My grandmother was a piano teacher and worked at J.C. Penney for years. My grandma and grandpa Swan, they used to deliver Meals on Wheels and would help clean people's houses and help people bathe for nothing, for free. For free they would do it. And they manipulated them to have the appearance of dementia. And then they got them to go into an old folks home, and then they cultivated MRSA. And when they did that, they gave it to my grandfather George, who was World War II. I think he was Army. And my grandma, they used ether and stopped her from getting up. And they talked about it over the piggyback FM frequencies, and they laughed about it, and they bragged about it while they were talking about it. And they were also laughing and bragging about making me respond any way that they wanted in the interrogation platform. And people have been broadcasting digitally all the time and falsifying stuff digitally all the time. And they cut my testicles open, from the backs of my testicles, and then they stabbed into my prostate gland, and they would shock it, and when they would shock it, they would falsify stuff digitally and tried to make me look like a sycophant. I need to get medical attention so bad. People won't stop mutilating me with the surgicals, and there's like 3 or 5, upwards of 5 surgicals in me. And Kraus learned equipment access, I was told from Dirty Agent Nick, and he imprinted surgical access on all of his family members and all of their associates that are involved with doing stuff to me and my family. And they're using intimidation and mutilation tactics to try to demand that I don't put them in prison for what they did to me and my family. The algorithms in the computer are compromised. My job is supposed to be to regulate the use of this CIA and FBI technology being utilized on a federal, state, county, local level for interrogative, investigative, and undercover purposes. There are between 500 and 600 people in the state of Wisconsin alone that desperately don't want me to do my job and don't want me to put them in prison. And the more stuff they do to me, the more I have to rat them out. And they admit that I'm innocent about everything. And they said that the reason that they won't leave me alone is because they'll wind up going to prison. I wouldn't have survived this long if it wasn't for the West Bend Washington County Sheriff's Department giving me medical attention and stuff, and they keep getting attacked. They wanted to role reverse and stuff and make me look like one of the fucking Krause pieces of shit. And they wanted to manipulate people to harm me. And they've been stealing all my medical attention from me. And I mean, they, as in the 600 people, 500 to 600 people, have been stealing my medical attention from me, and they're trying to patsy the Washington County Sheriff's Department because they found out that I was innocent. And they said they don't think that I deserve this. And I proved that I'm innocent. And I got confessions from all these messed up people. And they're fighting to try to stop people from committing fraud. And they're always getting beat up and attacked and stuff. My apartment is definitely under surveillance, thank God. I contacted the mayor's office, the U.S. Marshal's office, the FBI office, the Sheriff's Department in West Bend, Wisconsin, and I told them what people are doing to me. I asked them for help, you know. People are still abusing me. I can't get anybody to actually uphold the law and make apprehensions. Nobody's upholding the law. People are group and gang stalking me, constantly electronically harassing me. People are mutilating me and mutilating me. And they're using vocal cord modulation of my voice, and were mutilating me and trying to make me sound like my brother to fabricate an excuse for them lobotomizing him and fabricating his responses in the interrogation platform. And they did the same to my mother. And my father, and my cousins, aunts and uncles. They're fabricating everything they want. Blasting our lobes, hostily deciding in place of us. And they're doing it out of retribution and are doing it to try to demand that they get away with stuff, and the Moons and the Krauses and their associates planned it flat out. And Ronnie Fuller said, "Take the dive." And I'm going, I will never take the dive and let people patsy and stool pigeon me and my relatives. And will never let him and them get away with murdering, home invading, holding us captive, raping us, sexually enslaving us, forcing us to produce children, robbing us, mutilating us. Between him and Shepard, I don't know which one's worse. They made it clear when I was a kid that they were bad guys because they had me charged with felonies instead of misdemeanors. And Dirty Judge Sue Bishel and Dirty former Judge Owen Montpiles was pretending to be my attorney through the statements out of me being molested. And they tried to blame me for being abused by these people and made homeless and then befriended by them and controlled by them and then thought controlled by them and then made me do whatever they wanted, and I couldn't handle it. I couldn't even think about it. I just tried to kill myself. I'm like, no fucking way. Fuck this. And Angela Krause's uncle said that he killed her father and hung him in a tree. And that was homicide, not suicide. I think it's Heather Root's dad, something like that. Heather Lee Root's dad. One of the many Krauses that have been raping me over the years. And stalking me and shit. They keep smashing, and they keep smashing and stabbing through my brain, out my lobes, and out the top of my brain with such horrendous pressure, it's like breaking my skull. And it's like putting like a crease from cell phones that were sodomized into me on the side of my skull. And they keep drilling with the surgicals into the cell phone's battery packs. And they're putting it all over my brain, all over my body. And they're shocking me and forcing me to stay awake. And they're falsifying digitally. And one guy said he was helping me stay awake this morning because he wanted to make sure that I would go and handle my obligations in a sense of getting the $100 that I owed dude from partying last night, which really wasn't a party for me. It was more of a nightmare. this crap. And I had to pay my cell phone bill. Somebody's like saying they wouldn't leave it, or they won't need it. I sit in here alone all morning being shocked and tortured to stay awake. And I'm hearing some big fat chick or some real repulsive chick named Brown or Laundry or some shit. And I'm listening to these gross people moan and shit like that. Just disgusting. Like Geraldine Shampoo or her ugly sister or something. And it's just like, ugh. Some fat chick, I'm thinking, fat Psycho Fuller's ugly fat daughter, or some other chick. Everybody wants to falsify all this different stuff, but I'm going, I don't date. I don't have any friends. Can't afford to do anything. I'll never get maritally involved ever. I worked for the FBI for 14 years now. And people have been thieving my free will for years and compromising my broadcast frequency and torturing me to death for years. I need witness protection and medical attention. Somebody is molesting me right now with the surgicals, and they're shocking me. I notified the Department of Justice what's happening. And I'm hoping that they'll please save the lives of me and my relatives. And the nanotransceivers, piggyback FM neurotransceivers, are compromised, just like the cell phones that they have sodomized into me, compromised me, and the CB radio they have in me compromised me, and the Bluetooth that they keep putting in me compromises me and my family and I's safety. And we're receiving constant, like, death threats after death threats after death threats. And I suffer attempt after attempt after attempt on my life. My Uncle Daniel Joseph Peltier. Daniel Joseph Peltier was a career Air Force diesel mechanic who served his country in the Air Force for 20 years. And they got him to drink himself to death. And then they tried to make excuses for it. And they used to say, well, he was an alkie. But they said, quote, I got a friend down there. And they went down there and they got him to drink himself to death. And they killed him because I was telling him what people were doing to us. And he said, I know something, a thing or two about stuff like that, he said. I know a thing or two about stuff like that. And I'm going, these people, And I said, you're not going to get away with doing this stuff to me and my family and trying to patsy and stool pigeon me and my relatives and step-relatives, I said to them. And they said that they were, and they said that they've done this 60 times before. And they're killing my entire family and step-family, literally physically murdering us, literally. And they're stealing nanotechnology from the government as well, and nobody's making any arrests. I sit and suffer every day, and people try to falsify with a lookalike, or they try to falsify digitally again and again and again and again and again. And they try to falsify me being in another location, me traveling, me being a lookalike, me being one of them, me being their relative, and they try to falsify excuses for why they're connecting up to me and using surgicals. And they say, this one's my mom, or this one's my sister, or this one's this person. As a question as to why they're using a surgical. And I get horrifically mutilated by him. They stomped Thomas Joseph DeLugie down to the ground. 2 twin brothers that were off duty, West Allis PD, and the son of a cop. I'm thinking probably RJ's brother or something. His father was an officer in the West Allis area. And so here in West Allis, Wisconsin, they went from there with Patrick Karowicz, and they jumped us on 6th and Scott Street in the Milwaukee area. Tom tried to stick up for me. They said that they were going to beat me up. And DeLugie tried to stick up for me, and they beat DeLugie up, and they beat him down to the ground. And when he tried to get himself back up off the ground, they wouldn't stop. And one of the twin brothers picked his boot up and stomped on his lower spinal column and fractured 4 vertebrae and exploded both of his kidneys. He wasn't given any medical attention, and they blamed alcoholism for it. And they falsified him dying of kidney-related, alcoholism-related. They cut all my intestines up into pieces. They cut my esophagus out. And when they did that, they then stabbed into my kidneys. They cut my stomach open in 2 spots. They cut my lungs down, broke my trachea off, or my larynx, whatever. They broke my trachea off, cut my lungs down the middle, and then have been ripping them off blood supply and stopping them from staying connected, and have been murdering me slowly from the inside out. And these radio frequencies, they don't have much of a range, especially in a way, I mean, like a limit on the range. They don't have a limit on the range because they have the battery packs from the cell phones powering them up and super powering them. And so they're also powering up my bodily function and the hard drive, and they're making me stay awake. And they're stabbing into my brain and through my lobes, and cutting my brain, cutting the back of it, cutting the top, stabbing through the top, but through the lobes. And they're cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting it, and they're ripping the hard drive off in a way where they're getting rid of the hard drive and every bit of physical evidence that I have acquired or accumulated over the last so many years, and they're disappearing all the evidence, and they're going to turn in a transceiver that Jacob Krause, aka Jacob Brown, and his family and cousins have been using. And they've been home invading and sexually assaulting my family members. And they've been doing all sorts of real messed up stuff, staging stuff. Like Carol Wicks was staging stuff, and he was coercing or something like manipulating a kid to commit fraud, saying that, your mother's going to go to jail. She said, he said to this kid, and I'm standing in the middle of the street at the time, and I was holding a sign that said homeless because I didn't have a place to live, and I was trying to get money for the motels that they were discrediting me in, as they were giving me extra money, and then they were thought controlling me to buy drugs and trying to make me look like a junkie every day. And as they did this, I heard him talking over the frequency, and then I watched this car go past, and it looked like it was like a khaki color or something, like a tan little Chinese car or something. I can only wonder whose vehicle that is. The Browns and the Moons and the Krauses and the sheriff's department are driving around in similar vehicles. Yeah, and I'm going, it's difficult to tell which one's which, but I mean, look at the Shawano County area, Shawano County Sheriff's Department, the Brown County Sheriff's Department, the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Department, Port Washington County, or Port Washington, what was it? Ozaukee County, whatever, Sheriff's Department, the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department, and the West Bend County Sheriff's Departments are all in some sort of way involved with this stuff, but in different ways. Like, Wash County Sheriff's Department tries to help me survive. It tries to give me medical attention. It tries to stop people from committing fraud. And a lot of the other ones, for the most part, are kind of on their own, like, kind of thing, but there are people in each one of those departments that know that I'm innocent, and they try to slide me a little bit of help here and there, but it's not enough. And I'm still getting killed in my apartment, I'm hearing some chick talking about murdering me right now. But all these frequencies are compromising me, and all these frequencies are compromised. So, but there are good people and there are bad people. It's just like, which one is which? Sit and take the time to try to sort them out. Who's honest, who's not honest. There's between 500 and 600 people that are involved with serious felonies that are not honest. That are not honest. Two dirty judges, maybe even three dirty judges, dirty DAs, dirty public defenders, dirty agents, dirty officers, dirty deputies. They ripped my sinuses out so I can't cry. And then they stabbed my eyeballs and squeezed my eyeballs to falsify me crying. I think they cut my optic nerves and have been running me on just lenses. But I think that's what they're doing. They stuck them in my eyeballs, and then they took them out, and then they hooked chunks of intestine up to my eyeballs. And they're walking around or whatever, they're watching me walk around, and they're pretending that I'm them. They verbalized intention to kill my entire family. Harassing and stool pigeons. Somebody's got to do something about the situation. Somebody's got to uphold the law. Somebody's got to be honest, like me and my family, because the truth sets me free. Nobody wants to do it. And more innocent people like my family and I are going to wind up suffering horrifically. And aren't going to get tortured to death. And aren't going to get any medical attention. And aren't going to get harassed and stalked. And like they raped, molested, and stalked me for 29 years. They ran a 24-hour-a-day audio train on me for 13 years. And they impersonate me in the interrogation platform. When I ignore them, they mutilate me. Nobody wants to do their jobs. I'm not going to make it much longer. I know this for a fact. My body's so messed up, and they keep smashing more and more through my brain. I can't even eat, and my lungs are dying. My intestines are being digested by the stomach that was bunched up and was shoved in an intestine, and the acid was being pulled out of the stomach to try to feed me, and they keep pulling it out. I'm just dying. I'm being murdered by him. Krause laughed when he ripped the esophagus that was being grafted into position by the Washington County Sheriff's Department in 2021, or was it 2022? 2021, I think. Jacob Krause ripped the top out of it. That was going to be my esophagus. And Angela Krause ripped the one out of the side that they had grafted into place for something to defecate out of. And they attacked all the sheriff deputies that were trying to give me medical attention, and I didn't realize it. Like, I didn't realize they were trying to do it, and I freaked out about them. When the Washington County Sheriff's Department put it in there, I freaked out because they cut the inside of my gut so bad it felt like, but what they did was cut the intestine in half so my food could actually go into my stomach. There's people that are in this building and in the surrounding buildings and the neighborhood that are bad guys and bad gals and bad kids. And there are just the same good ones. And unless you're shutting these transceivers down and figure out who's running me and getting me to witness protection, I'm a goner, just like my grandparents. Just like my mother will be.